I'm Jamie S. Rich. I've been working in comics for 20 years. Join me as we dig a little deeper into how comic books are made and get to know the people who make them. This is From the Gutters. All right, so we're here at Cosmic Monkey, one of the best stores in Portland, Oregon, and we're talking to Becky Cloonan, the artist on Conan, the upcoming Fabulous Killjoys, Batman. The list would go on forever. But you're here for Stumptown, the alternative comics festival in Portland. Is this your first time at Stumptown?
My first time at Stumptown, but my second time in Portland.
What did you come to Portland?
I think I was just in Seattle, so I was like, well, I might as well go to Portland too.
And where are you coming from?
I moved to Montreal, but I'm like...
But you're kind of a New York girl.
Yeah, I was in New York since I was like 17. So, but I actually was just in New York right before I came here. So I had no sleep.
What age did you start doing your mini comics then?
I think when I started to do comics, you know, no one's going to publish you when you're in college.
Yeah.
So, or maybe, I mean, some people they might, but not me. So I just started doing mini comics because I loved drawing comics, and I was going to conventions, so I was like, I might as well just like pack my little backpack full of comics and just give them out to people. So that's kind of how it started.
I think I met you. It was either 99 or 2000.
It was a long time
Chicago.
ago. I was probably still a teenager when you met me.
Yeah. And you were like, because you were there, I was like, you were on with the punk rock
I had a
crew.
Mohawk and
and John G. Was
oh,
with you.
yeah, he's great.
Yeah, because it was Chicago Con.
Yeah.
And yeah, you were handing out your mini comics.
Yeah.
And I remember that period.
Oh, I was so shy. John G. like basically introduced me to everybody that I know.
Yeah, because that dude's badass.
Yeah, he's the best.
So how did you get into comics? Like, what was your...
It was just going to conventions and kind of meeting people and...
I mean more of like when you were as a reader.
When I was a kid,
yeah,
as
like
a reader.
what drew you into this medium?
My dad always read me comics when I was growing up. So like Silver Surfer and like Fantastic Four and kind of the spacey, like really trippy stuff. And after that, I think I always had like that sensibility because everything that I drew when I go back to like my mom's house and she's like, I found some of your old drawings from when you were, 7. They're always sequential in nature. So it's like, it'll be a picture of a dinosaur here and then that dinosaur is eating another dinosaur on the next like piece of paper. So there's always been that like storytelling, I guess, that I've liked. And then, when I got into high school, I started getting into X-Men and like, I think when I was 13, I read like Jim Lee's like X-Men #1 and I was like, oh my God, it blew my mind. And so I'm definitely like a 90s comic girl,
So was
Claremont and like, the whole Excalibur.
As a teenager then, were you like music and comics?
Music and less music, more, because I grew up in New Hampshire, which there's like nothing. We had a comic store and there might have been like a few of my friends in high school were in bands, but it was like kind of culturally like a void. And we didn't even have the internet at the time. Yeah. I don't think I got internet until like I was out of high school and like into college, which is a weird thing to think about. So like anything that I wanted, I had to kind of go out and like hunt for, which I think is something that's a little, I don't know if people have to do that anymore.
No, because I'll go to conventions and there's special stuff and like I'll just get it when I get home.
Yeah, I'll just buy it on Amazon or something on eBay. But like, my friends and I, Jen Quick, who's actually, she worked for Tokyo Pop for a while. We grew up together.
Like Steady Beat?
Yeah, Offbeat.
Offbeat.
And it's actually getting republished again too. But we were friends since we were like 13. We met in like reading class or something on a poetry assignment. And we just became like really good friends because she drew and I drew. We both love comics. So we'd started getting into manga together. And we'd get down to Boston and we'd have to buy like, bootleg VHS tapes of like Ravna 1/2 that's been like dubbed into Chinese and re-subtitled into English. So it's like this whole like the idea of, I don't know if people have to do this anymore. Like
no, because I was the same when I was young.
I just order everything I want online.
We would buy like these bootlegs of Japanese anime, sometimes not even subtitled.
Yeah.
And it was so hard to get. And now it's just like
now you can find everywhere. Yeah. So that was kind of like, definitely my upbringing. I think you can still see all that. Everyone says, oh, I've got like a manga style. That's all like through Muka Takahashi that I read when I was in middle school and high school, like bubbling to the surface. So
I never thought about this, but then you kind of are that last generation of mini comics before web comics.
Yeah, maybe. I think so. I mean, I was putting my mini comics online. I think that's how Brian Wood saw my stuff. But I don't know if I'd call them web comics because they were never made for web.
Right.
They were just like, oh, I might as well put them online because I've got this website now.
So Demo was your first big break, or did you do Jenny 1?
Jenny 1, I guess, before that, but I think Demo is definitely like the first like creator-owned thing that we did together.
Well, and then you pushed yourself on that to change your style with every issue.
I
and
couldn't,
expand.
no, people say that, but it's like I really wasn't good enough to be consistent, is what it comes down to. Because everything I had done before Demo was just mini comics, and in my mini comics, I didn't know what I was doing. So I was in school for animation, and I didn't have like any comic. Like I took like one comic class in college, so everything I was doing was like I was learning from the guys in Meat House, Farrell Dalrymple and James Jean and Chris McDonald and everything. Those guys are awesome, and that kind of like pushed me really hard in like a direction. And then the mini comic thing was just throwing shit against the wall and trying to see what sticks. Like, what do I like inking with? How do I tell a story? Like, what if I did it different? What if I used like collages? What if I used photography? So it was just all experimenting. And then so when Brian was like, let's do this comic Demo, and I added up, I was like 12 issues, 12 times 22 is like 300 something. And I was like, I can't be consistent for 300 pages. So when we were talking about it, he's approaching each story differently with the writing. So I figured it,
It's funny because it worked because it was a great marketing thing. But I remember reading it and going like, it's not that different. But you could see a progression was what it was more.
Yeah,
it wasn't that you were completely radically altering your style.
No, it wasn't. Like it was just me, but doing different, like trying different things. And some of them were more successful than others. And I remember doing some and being like, that worked better, like in my head, or that worked better on that mini comic that I did like last year than it did on this issue. So. That's right. It's like a learning experience. Not everything is going to work 100%.
I love that. I mean, when I was editing at Oni, we had a lot of those types of series where it was someone's first time really doing the whole thing, and you could see from issue 1 to issue 4 this huge progression.
Yeah.
And for them, I don't know how it would feel now where they look back at it and they see the first one and go, oh God. But I love that where you see the artist just blossom and grow.
Excuse me, I just totally burped.
Don't edit that out. Keep that. Oh. So, and then did you go from then Demo to American Virgin after that?
I know I was with Tokyo Pop. I did Tokyo
That's right,
Pop
you
book.
did East Coast Rising.
Ooh, I also adapted Dracula. It's like a graphic novel. No one remembers that because.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah, I did Dracula.
But you did illustrations like recently for the actual novel.
For a very long time, Dracula was the most consistent man in my life. So.
I did not realize you had done a whole Dracula graphic
I've read that
novel.
book like 12 times. I love it.
How did you get that gig where you did the illustrations for the actual book?
I don't know. Oh, for the book, though, my agent, Judy Henson, kind of sorted that out. She heard that they were looking for an artist for it, and she was like, put my name in, and they liked it. That was cool. That's like the first time I've ever illustrated anything. It's daunting and difficult and stressful.
And it's like one of your favorite things to draw, but...
Yeah, but it was weird. I mean, it was like I was trying to do something really different with it. Because it was, Dracula's been done to death. Like, everybody's illustrated Dracula, and they've all done it like a better job than I have.
Oh,
so I was trying to just bring something like a little bit, like, something more, like, it looks a little more animated, more colorful, something that you wouldn't expect from a Dracula book. But still keep it like dark and gothic, but with more colors, like being more colorful and like kind of cuter.
And sexy a little bit.
And kind of sexy, That's how
we were talking earlier about like the ladies like your sexy Conan.
Oh yeah, sexy Conan. I like sexy Conan.
The Brian Wood emo Conan.
Yeah, he wasn't really that. I was like, emo. I don't know. I didn't get the emo thing. I mean, but I guess he's like, got bangs in his eyes or something.
He's got a little bit of doubt in his character
hair.
because he's young, so he hasn't quite gotten.
Yeah, but I mean,
super cocky.
Just because you have doubt, does that make you like too emotional? And really, what is emo? I mean, were we talking about like emotional hardcore, like how it was originally intended, or is it like the hijacked emo movement?
I think like Brian Wood's Conan is like the dashboard confessional of Conan. No,
I was gonna say like maybe like Embrace or Fugazi of Conan.
That actually would probably be more accurate. So you actually connected to that. You're like punk rock girl doing your own mini comics. How did it feel though then to work with a writer? Were you surrendering control, or were you looking forward to actually being able to work within those confines, or how did that come about?
Like
with
when
Demo?
I first started with Demo,
with like
with
Jenny
Brian
1 and
Well, he wrote me an email, and this is back. Remember, I didn't have email before this, so I was like, I think I was 19 years old, and it's like this stranger being like, "Hi, I live in New York. I'm a writer. Do you want to meet up?" And like, I was like, "Who's this creep online talking to me?" Like, I don't. So I was like, we have to meet in a public place, and of course, and then of course Brian's totally cool, and
Yeah.
like, we're pretty good friends, so it worked out. When I was just started drawing comics, like when I was in like middle school, I had this dream that I was going to be like a auteur and like draw and write my own like 50 volume epic.
Right.
That's never going to happen. Let's be honest. I'm not about to like create the next One Piece, but in your head, that's how you feel like I want to write and I want to draw my own stories. But working with a writer really forces you to draw things that you would never draw before. So like, working with Brian, that just expanded, I guess, my repertoire of things and, helped me think about stories in a different way and helped me actually be a better writer, because learning from his scripts has like informed my own sensibilities on like what I think storytelling should be or how I like to tell stories. Not necessarily what it should be, but for me, what it should be, like a personal thing. And it's the same thing with like, every writer I've worked with, Steve Siegel on American Virgin, and like I worked with Scott Snyder for like a little bit, but seeing these people, like how they write and getting to work with some amazing writers has just helped.
Because you've kind of gone back to your roots a little bit in that you've been doing your own minis.
I love to write.
And the
I love to
Mire.
write stories. I have so many stories in my head, and if I told you all of them, we could be here all day.
So how do you settle? Like, I'm going to now go do Wolves. And you're working on a third one. I forget the title.
Demeter. Yeah, that's the third one.
So how does that then come about where you're like, okay, now I have to do that?
That was kind of like desperation, being like, I have not written anything for myself since East Coast Rising with Tokyo Pop. It was like a graphic novel that got sadly canceled, tragically. And I just, you sit there and you think like, okay, well, I've been working on a lot of really good stuff with some really talented people, but at the same time, I have this like urge to I've got these characters that I think about and like stories that I think about, and the only way to do that is to just go back to what I started doing and just do mini comics. It's like a 20-pager. I can bump that out in like a month and a half or 2 months if I'm working on something else, and just try and get my writing back, because it definitely is not up to par. I didn't feel like I was a strong enough writer to pitch something of my own.
Right.
And then, there's that making mini comics, there's something really like physical about it and something visceral, and like I have absolute control of everything. Not that I'm a control freak, but
Well, I even feel like between East Coast Rising and Wolves in particular, your storytelling changed. I just felt like there's a personal investment when I read Wolves.
There was. It was much more poetic, I think. East Coast Rising was very juvenile, and it was fun, but if I went back and revisited it, if Tokyo Pop ever gave me my rights back, I would just end up redrawing the whole thing, because that was me, who I was like when I was when I was, how old was I, 20, 25 or something?
Because even at the Mire, you said, and I think in the introduction or somewhere in there, about how like you basically fell in love with that character and you just wanted to keep.
Oh yeah, like I think that's important though. I mean, you have to like crush on your characters, or else like how are your readers gonna feel? If you don't feel that way about
Absolutely.
your characters, your readers won't feel that way. And if there's a romance in the comic, I have to make sure that those characters feel it. So like in the Mire, there was a female character, the love interest, I guess. I don't want to give, if someone hasn't read it, I don't want to give it away, because it's only 20 pages. But you only really see her for like a panel, and in that panel, the main character, one of the main characters, like falls in love with her. So I have to feel like when I draw that I'm like get little goosebumps and like little butterflies in my stomach from drawing her. So that way, when the character sees her, they're feeling the same thing that I'm feeling. So it's definitely a matter of like trying to draw your characters and redraw them, and even things that aren't important, like, oh, what are they, what's their morning routine like? That's never in the comic, but if I know it, maybe I can put some of that feeling into the comic. So there's definitely
I'm working on a book with an artist named Megan Levins, and it's a romance, and in writing it, I was trying to make her fall in love with the male lead.
Yeah.
And in drawing it, she was trying to make me fall in love with the female lead.
That's
and it did work. There was a point where it converged. Where I was like, I just want to see more of that.
Well, that's like, when you watch a film and it's a romance and there's no chemistry between the actors, that's, it's pointless. That chemistry has to happen. And it's the same thing in comics. And as the artist and as the writer, you have to be the actor, I guess.
Yeah.
And, you're responsible for that chemistry to happen.
So it's the same with even any emotional scene. Like if you write a sad scene and you're not devastated from what you're done with it.
Exactly. Not even in a romance interest, but like, if it's a father-son, or like if it's a, brother-sister thing, you have to have that kind of friends, in order to feel that relationship be strained at any point, you actually have to feel that, you have to believe that there's a relationship there. And that's, I think, a hard part of comics. because there's so little time to,
Yeah.
you know, you've only got like maybe 5 panels a page on average.
Wow.
And I don't know any Chinese at all. Not even a character.
They didn't have anybody. Did they give you then the
They
script?
gave
You
me
just had
the
to copy?
script, but I had to like copy and paste it. But then I had to